Children do not just vanish. They do not just disappear into thin air. When a child goes missing, someone knows what happened. 11-year-old Mikelle Biggs is one of these missing children. She is described as an intelligent, artistic, sociable person and an honor student. She played the clarinet and was a member of her school's student council at the time of her disappearance. She wanted to become an animator when she grew up. Her favorite color is purple, and she has 2 younger sisters and a brother. There are a few leads in Mikelle's disappearance, and her case remains unsolved. Welcome to Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Catherine. Mikelle's disappearance and her case remains unsolved. Her birth date is May 31st, 1989. She would be 33 years old now. According to the Charlie Project, she was last seen wearing a red t-shirt with her elementary school logo name on it, Lindburg. It was imprinted on the front of her shirt. She was wearing bell-bottom jeans with embroidered seams on the sides of both of the pant legs, white canvas shoes, and possibly earrings. She is described as a Caucasian female, brown hair, hazel eyes. Mikelle's upper front teeth are prominent, and her ears are pierced, and she has several moles on the left side of her neck. Her hair had been permed and was growing out prior to her disappearance. She was abducted January 2nd, 1999 at 6 p.m. from Mesa, Arizona, at the intersection of South Toltec Street and El Morro Avenue. This was 21 years ago. Her parents were Darian and Tracy, and her sister, who was there at the time of the abduction's name is Kimber.
The story has vexed authorities for so long. A little girl heading to find an ice cream truck vanishes. It's a nightmare that unfolded here in the Valley 2 decades ago.
And Linda Williams covered the story then and is here now on this sad anniversary. Linda.
It is a sad anniversary. 20 years, as you know, is a long time, but it hasn't dulled the faith of Mikelle's family. Her sister Kimber says they will never stop fighting and looking and hoping that they find out what happened to little Mikelle.
20 years ago, the afternoon of January 2nd, 11-year-old Mikelle Biggs took her younger sister's bike to go find the ice cream truck she heard in their Missin neighborhood. When she didn't return, her sister Kimber went to find her and instead found the bicycle abandoned in the street near their home.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind, and I always say it's the bike in the road. You know, the tire spinning.
The Mesa neighborhood was soon teeming with law enforcement, volunteers, and neighbors, everyone looking desperately for Mikelle Biggs. Despite the desperate pleas from Mikelle's parents and an outpouring of community support, the little girl was never found. It is as if she vanished. And her sister Kimber, who was the last person to see her riding off, says they will never, ever give up looking.
We have no answers. There's nothing. We have theories, but theories don't give you peace.
Kimber has set up a Facebook page dedicated to finding out what happened to Mikelle. Justice for Mikelle Biggs' Facebook page has nearly 18,000 followers. Kimber says she wants to keep growing and spreading the word about new missing person cases and about her sister's case.
I figure the more people that see me, begging and fighting for answers, the more likely it's going to reach more people and get to someone who actually knows something.
Kimber still has her sister's favorite bear. She says Mikelle loved this bear, and everyone has clung to it while they hope one day to find some answers.
Mikelle's parents now live in Utah. Mesa police say this remains an open case with no new strong leads. But you remember a while ago there was that dollar bill that had Mikelle's name on it? But police say that was not a credible lead. They checked it out. If you have any information about this case or any other, please call Mesa Police or Silent Witness. That number is 480-WITNESS.
Mikelle was kidnapped on January 2nd, 1999 in Mesa, Arizona. She was the oldest of 4 children. Her parents are Darian and Tracy. She was 11 years old at the time, and she was outside riding her bicycle. She was with her younger sister, Kimber. Kimber was 9, and Mikelle was 11. They were outside, and they heard an ice cream truck from afar. Ice cream man's here. My kids would always do that. Kimber got cold waiting, so Kimber went in the house to get her jacket. Tracy, the mom, told Kimber to go get Mikelle. It was getting close to dinner anyways, and to come back inside. So Kimber went back out. It had only been about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and Mikelle was gone. Her bike was there, and the bike's wheels were still spinning. There were 2 quarters laying on the ground, and it appeared she had maybe run and dropped her bike and dropped the coins. Police were called, and including search dogs, but the search dogs lost Mikelle's scent after only a few feet. This is suggesting that she was placed into a vehicle and driven away. Authorities were unable to confirm if an ice cream truck was actually in the area at the time of her disappearance, but all ice cream vendors in the area were cleared of any involvement in Mikelle's case. Known sex offenders in the vicinity were also cleared of any connection to Mikelle. For days, the search continued. Police and all the neighbors searched everywhere, in dumpsters and alleyways. They searched mine shafts and a nearby lake. They also drained the lake, and yet they found nothing. They also searched many other areas within Mesa, Phoenix, Queen Creek, Glendale. They searched dump sites and desert areas, but never found Mikelle. They even had psychics helping authorities, and they listened and acted upon what the psychics had implied, but nothing. There have been many false leads in Mikelle's case. On January 9th, police dug up what appeared to be a freshly dug grave outside of Mesa. They found nothing. 2 witnesses were put under hypnosis in hopes that they would remember something, but nothing came of that. A copper-colored Jeep was reportedly spotted near Mikelle's home at the time she was last seen, but the driver was located and he was ruled out as a suspect, and he had seen nothing unusual. Houses in the neighborhood were searched with the consent of the owners, but to no avail. Only one homeowner refused to permit a search, but he is not considered a suspect. On March 10th, 1999, a man reportedly tried to abduct 2 girls, a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old, from a schoolyard nearby. Police thought the incident might have been connected to Mikelle's case, but the abduction was revealed to be a hoax. This investigation was the largest in the history of Arizona. Authorities have investigated over 10,000 leads and 800 pieces of evidence. Kimber, the younger sister, blamed herself for a long time. She said to ABC News, "I remember I was sleeping on the living room after the incident on the couch one night, and my aunt came in and heard me crying. And she asked me what was wrong. And I said, it's my fault. And she had to comfort me. She had to convince me that it wasn't my fault. But the kids at school didn't make it any easier on her. They actually blamed her for her sister's disappearance. She later says they were stupid. They would ask her questions like, why'd you leave her alone? And she said, I would just start crying at school. She told ABC News, it made me think, well, it is my fault because all the kids think it is. She told her mom, if I hadn't left her, she would still be here. The mom, Tracy, said to Kimber, you're just a little girl. You couldn't have stopped it from happening. Even though she heard those words from her mother many times, Kimber said it took 6 years before she truly believed that Mikelle's disappearance wasn't her fault. It wasn't until I got older, more mature, that I was like, okay, it was not my fault.
Right now, there are almost 2,000 people reported missing in Arizona and more than 84,000 nationally. Team 12's Tricia Hendricks sat down with the sister of an East Valley girl who went missing almost 2 decades ago.
It was a day Kimber Biggs will never forget. The day her big sister, Mikelle, went missing.
She was out riding my bike. She was out on the corner at the T in the road, and she was waiting for the ice cream truck. And I got cold, went inside, turned around and walked back out and walked to the end of the driveway. And by that point, she was already gone. And that's when I saw my bike laying in the road.
Fast forward almost 20 years later now.
There's a piece missing.
Her body never found. No solid evidence of what happened.
There's a whole piece of our lives that was literally taken from us. It feels weird saying it, but I'm grateful for the effect everything had on me, despite all the negative side effects.
She's more protective when it comes to her son. She feels empowered to raise awareness about missing children. Today, she believes her sister is no longer with us, but rather an angel above.
It really wasn't until I saw my son react to her picture. For the first time seeing it, it was like he knew her. He recognized her. He was about 8 or 9 months old, maybe.
She continues to raise awareness about her sister's case, along with thousands of other missing children, on her sister's Remembrance Facebook page. Kimber says while she doesn't really know what happened to her sister, she believes one day her family will find out, and she won't stop telling her story until that happens. Tricia Hendricks, 12 News.
When Michelle vanished, police immediately ran a check on all the registered sex offenders in the area. They were surprised to discover that dozens of sex offenders were living within a mile radius of the Biggs house. In this child-filled neighborhood, many sex offenders were right there within a mile radius of the Biggs house in the child-filled neighborhood. As far as suspects, there were 2. First was Darian Biggs, Mikelle's own father. He became a suspect and for a year was under surveillance and followed closely. He was said to be deceitful in the voice analysis and showed deceit in the polygraph in many places. He was eventually cleared and no longer considered a suspect. Darian had lied to law enforcement about where he was when Mikelle disappeared. He was, in fact, at a neighbor's house watching a football game. He had told law enforcement he was at work. The next suspect was D. Blaylock. This person was a neighbor, and he was actually at the vigil for Mikelle. He was also noted to criticize law enforcement, and he lived about 2 blocks from the Biggs, and was described by neighbors as being friendly and personable. But nearly 2 years after Mikelle Biggs vanished, the neighborhood got another shock when Blaylock was actually convicted of raping, brutally attacking, and trying to kill his neighbor Susan Quinnett. Prior to this horrible attack, Quinnett said she had complained to police about Blaylock's unwanted advances. He was coming up on me, he was drunk, he reeked of beer, she said. He was putting his hands on me in my yard. She said, I called the police and I said, this guy is just creeping me out. He is stalking me. She said, I tried to tell his wife, and she said, she didn't know that Blaylock was more than just a nuisance, but she did later find out that he was, in fact, a registered sex offender. He had convictions in 3 states, but the law at the time did not require the community to be notified. She said police never followed up on her complaint, and on the night of the attack, he was waiting for her inside her home. He was hiding behind the refrigerator and he had his pants unzipped. And he was exposing himself to me, she says. She said she was shocked and she asked him what he was doing there. She said, I tried to take a few steps and he already had come forward and grabbed me. And he twisted my arm and started forcing me to the ground. Mesa police described Bullock's attack on Quinnett as brutal. One of the worst beatings I've ever seen, said Detective Jerry Giselle. Quinnett survived the attack, and she said she immediately suspected that Bullock might also be responsible for Mikelle's disappearance, and she contacted the Biggs to tell them about her suspicions. And she said, I talked to the mom, Tracy, and she said, I told her very strongly he was their closure. He was the answer. She was so certain that Bullock was responsible that she offered to drop all charges against him if he would confess to the taking of Mikelle. She said, I can't imagine not ever knowing what happened to your daughter. She said, I said, if he could bring some comfort or closure to them, I will walk away from this. Then she added, authorities told her we can't do that because it's the state versus D. Bullock. It's not a personal civil suit. So it's the state against Bullock. The Biggs had never heard of Bullock, but they soon learned that police had visited him in the early morning after Mikelle's disappearance. Police said Bullock's wife provided an alibi and claimed he had been in the garage the entire night. Police also learned that Bullock had seen Mikelle before. He told detectives he had seen her going to her piano lessons. Bullock was a local part-time landscaper and a handyman, and he lived across the street from where Mikelle took her piano lessons. And he was also a few doors from the home of Mikelle's best friend. Bullock had been watching a football game on TV in his garage, the Cardinals game, and he told them his wife backed him up. He told police, I was in my garage watching the Cardinals football game, and my wife and his wife said, yeah, that's where he was. She backed him up. And when he let police inside his home, they found nothing. He was looked at that night, but he had an alibi, said Jerry Giselle, a retired detective with Mesa Police Department who worked on the case. He said there wasn't a whole lot we could do. Later, with Bullock locked up, his wife actually came forward and said, when speaking of the day that Mikelle vanished, she had brought him a sandwich in the garage and he had told her to stay out. And thus, she couldn't actually account for her husband's whereabouts during the hour when Mikelle was taken. Bullock's criminal past included 3 prior convictions for sexual assault, kidnapping, and child molestation. That new uncertainty in his timeline suddenly made Bullock look like a very prime suspect in Mikelle's abduction and presumed murder. Now he is serving 187 years in prison after the attack on the neighbor, and Bullock has never been charged in Mikelle's case, although he allegedly made a jailhouse confession claiming his involvement. Mesa Police Sergeant Kevin Biggs tells People magazine Mikelle's parents went to visit D. Bullock in prison. And in an article, according to ABC News, on May 14th, 2009, Tracy and Darian Biggs went to Arizona's maximum security prison at Florence to visit their former neighbor, D. Bullock. He was serving his sentence at the facility, and the Biggs were determined to speak to him, believing he had the key to what happened to their eldest daughter, Mikelle. Mikelle's mother, Tracy, decided she wanted to visit D. Bullock. She said, I wanted to look into his eyes. The Biggs decided the only way that they could find more answers was to deal with Bullock directly. After Bullock was sentenced for his attack on Quinette, the woman he raped neighbor, the Biggs sent him a letter in prison asking him directly if he had taken their daughter. Mikelle's father, Darian, said, I told him, if I'm wrong, I won't be able to do enough to apologize to you because that's a terrible thing to be accused of. But I don't care. If I have to accuse a million different people until I find the right one, Bullock did answer them in writing and said, I need to make things right with you and your family. He agreed to meet with Mikelle's parents, Tracy and Darian. Tracy said she was nervous and kind of shaky. The Biggs spoke to Bullock in the prison for an hour and a half, and he just denied, said Darian Biggs. He got mad a couple times, they said, but he never walked away. But they left feeling like he was lying. And he was the person that took their daughter. They just had that sense after conversing with him. Tracy stated at one point he made the comment that he can't be held responsible for what his other personality does. He claimed to have a split personality. But they also had some doubts. And at this point, he has never been charged with the disappearance of Mikelle. Back in 2009, Mesa police said they were investigating Bullock and described him as a promising lead in the case. But they emphasized that the case is still open and that Bullock has not been named as an official suspect. Bullock repeatedly has denied involvement in Mikelle's disappearance. In the meantime, Mesa police have interviewed thousands of people and gathered more than 800 items of evidence, like we said. They said the most significant piece of evidence is the pink and purple bicycle that Mikelle was riding when she went missing. They said it has been checked for fingerprints and DNA. And obviously, we keep it packaged after that initial processing just in case there's some new technology that comes about that we don't know about today. Well, it is now 2020, and I wonder if they have gone back and processed this bike again, because as you know, right now, DNA is solving cases left and right in 2020. Later on, the family felt like they needed some closure. So to try to get some closure on the 5th anniversary of Mikelle's disappearance, they held a funeral for Mikelle and buried an empty casket. This finally brought the Biggs family a little bit of peace. In 2018, a message hand-scrawled on a dollar bill found in Wisconsin, which read, "My name is Mikelle Biggs. I was kidnapped from Mesa, Arizona. I'm alive," brought some brief hope before the police ruled the message a hoax. Mikelle's name was actually spelled wrong, and they determined that that dollar bill was a hoax. There's a Facebook blog ran by her sister, Kimber, called Justice for Mikelle Biggs. She has this to say in the About section. It's a quote. "For those of you who do not know Mikelle's story, she was abducted January 2nd, 1999. There is still no conclusive evidence of who did it, and we have never found a body. We had a funeral for her on the 5-year anniversary of her disappearance, but burying an empty casket doesn't quite give the closure you need. This page is to share her story, share my feelings, an outlet if you may. I am tired of not speaking about her. I am tired of feeling like I can't bring her up for fear of making someone uncomfortable. I am tired of worrying people think I want attention when I say her name. She deserves a celebration of her life. She deserves to be remembered every day. Mikelle was a sweet, gentle, brilliant, artistic child. If this helps spread the word again, and find her remains and gives us proper closure, I couldn't ask for more. At least I hope this will help my family, friends, acquaintances, even strangers remember her and know her in some way. Kimber also posted in a Reddit thread, "I am still working on figuring out what evidence was gathered. I wasn't told a lot of that because I was only 9 at the time, but D. Balak lived in our neighborhood. The night it happened, his house was searched, but they didn't have a warrant for a trailer that he had. And then he got rid of the trailer, so it was never searched." She says, "Though I am still gathering exact facts on that particular story, he showed up to a candlelight vigil we had for her. And he even reached out to my parents while in jail. A lot of times people know who kidnap or similar will show up to see the chaos they caused." She said, "It just looks like it was him. My parents talked to him in prison and strongly believe he did it. They said it's just their parental intuition. However, nobody has been charged for the disappearance of Mikelle. Law enforcement says the most promising is D. Balak. Many leads, but there's not a body, no physical evidence. So there was that dollar that was written Mikelle's name on it, and I'm Mikelle and I'm disappeared. I was kidnapped from Arizona, that dollar bill. They actually looked further into that, and the parents had gotten emails, and they found it to be a 12-year-old messing around on the internet. Basically, up to now, everything has still come up empty-handed. Tracy and Darian have since divorced, but according to Kimber, they divorced for other reasons and remain on good terms. So if you or anyone you know has information that might help solve the mystery of what happened to Mikelle Biggs, please contact the Arizona Police Department on their website. I'll put it up on the screen here, mesaarizona.gov/police, okay? It's up on the screen. Or you can call them by phone, 480-644-2211. Thank you again for watching Left Undone Incomplete Investigations. I'm Catherine. Please share this where you can. Please let me know if you have any further information, and let's keep Mikelle's story alive. She's been missing a long time. It would be nice for her family and friends to have closure. Thank you for watching Left Undone. I'm Catherine. Stay well, stay safe, and stay home for now.